Hi, welcome to Viennese Cheese Rampfest grilled cheese cooking demonstration. So grilled cheese is an incredibly simple, but also can be incredibly deceptive how simple it is. You can ruin a grilled cheese sandwich. So first we'll talk about, basically there are three main components to a good grilled cheese sandwich. You've got your cheese, got your bread, and then you've got whatever oil you're cooking your grilled cheese in. So your cheese, let's start with your cheese. You are going to want to select, you're at least going to want some of the cheese that's on the sandwich to be a younger cheese. So the younger the cheese is, the longer the protein strands are, which makes a really creamy, really melty, really, gooey, ooey grilled cheese sandwich. If you've got some of your harder cheeses that have been aged longer, those protein strands as part of that aging process shorten up. And so you're not going to get quite that melty deliciousness that is expected in a grilled cheese. Fear not, there are some ways if you want to use a Parmesan or an Asiago or something like that in your grilled cheese, you can make up for that moisture in other ways. But it's a good idea to pick a young cheese. Bread, you can play around with it. It can be super simple, just a plain white bread. Or you can, we've selected a rye for one of ours. We've selected a sourdough. So just playing around with flavors there. Bread can be another way to add a new element. But definitely make it a bread that's got some backbone to it. This is not the time to pull out the Wonder Bread. Although if you do have one, that's all you have. Then Wonder Bread is fine. It will make a good grilled cheese sandwich if you follow, kind of the guidelines behind the technique. So. And then we also have, so there's a huge debate. You can add a lot of different flavors to your grilled cheese with the oil as well. For simplicity's sake, I use butter. We're in the Midwest here. We have Westby Co-op Creamery right down the road. They make delicious butter. I love the flavor. It's simple, it's easy, it's straightforward. But you can play around with the flavors in your grilled cheese by using olive oil. You can use bacon fat. You can use mayonnaise. There are a lot of different ways that you can fatten up on the outside of the bread to get that grilled, that really nice, crispy, crunchy bread. But the universal truth to a good grilled cheese sandwich is going to be low and slow. You want the cheese in the middle to be able to melt by the time the outside gets that nice golden crust. And so you're going to want to keep your heat on like medium low. And that's pretty much, it's a good basic rule. There's other ways that you can get around that. If you want to speed up your grilled cheese sandwich but finish it in the oven or something like that, there's ways to do it. But by far the simplest way is just medium low. Make sure that you're not burning the outside of your sandwich before the inside. So patience. Patience is key. Now, for today's video, what we've done, obviously we want to feature ramps. Ramps and cheese go so well together. So for our first sandwich, we'll be making Havarti cheese with fresh ramps on sourdough. So the Havarti cheese is really, it's going to be a great, really melty cheese all on its own. It's a super young cheese, so there's going to be no help needed there with that one. For our second sandwich, we're using a marble rye, so not too strong of a rye, but going to add a little bit of extra flavor. A 5-year aged cheddar, and our fermented ramps. And so this one is going to definitely be a really, flavorful, packed full of flavor sandwich with punch. Because this cheese is a little older, we are going to add a smear of mayonnaise on the inside of the sandwich to help with the creaminess. And then for our final sandwich, we've selected a Gruyere, so kind of a medium, not super soft, but not super hard either. It's going to melt really well. It's got a mild flavor. We've paired that with the ramp pesto, and then just a plain, this one is English muffin bread, so pretty much just a plain white bread. So let's get started. All right, so we've got all of our cheeses cut up. Don't they look amazing? So we'll start with our Gruyere and ramp pesto sandwich. Now the Gruyere is a little bit drier as well. I like to cut the rind off. Any of the cheeses that have a rind, I like to cut that off if I'm making a grilled cheese. Although that rind on the Gruyere is perfectly edible. I was definitely nibbling on it. Otherwise, you can take that rind and you can put it in your pasta water while your pasta boils, something like that. So we'll start with this sandwich. And it depends whatever camp you are in as far as pesto both sides, pesto one side. I definitely recommend starting with pesto one side because this pesto packs a punch. Say that 3 times fast. The ramp pesto's got a lot of good flavor in it, so you definitely don't need a whole lot. So we've got a little bit of Gruyere on there, a little bit of our ramp pesto. That one is ready to go. And now there are a couple of different camps as far as butter on first or butter in the pan, and I don't have strong feelings either way. I just find it simpler. It's one less step. Plop the butter in the pan and let it melt, and then you just kind of squish your sandwich around in it, and it comes out great every time. So here's our Havarti, this one, and because again, this Havarti is so creamy, and it's going to make an amazing sandwich. It doesn't need any extra moisture at all, so that's why I chose the fresh ramps for this sandwich. And you don't need a lot, maybe, you know, that's plenty. Now the ramps for this are going to be chopped up pretty fine. You know, we've made this sandwich with whole ramp leaves before, and it just ends up being kind of a mess, you know, like the ramp leaves want to slide out of the sandwich. So there's that sandwich. And then finally, our aged cheddar. And for the aged cheddar as well, since this is a crumblier, older cheese, it's going to need a little help in the creamy department as well. So for that, I've chosen mayonnaise for this sandwich. And just because there are so many other flavors here already, the sharp cheddar is going to be nice and tangy, and the sharp cheddar is going to be really flavorful, and the fermented ramps are going to be really flavorful. So we don't necessarily need to add a lot of flavor, but we do want to add a little bit of creaminess to that sandwich. So we will, and again, more cheese, less cheese. It's all up to you, however much you'd like to put on there. And then just, again, the ramps are extremely pungent, the fermented ramps, so you don't need much at all, just a little bit. And I would start with less, and if you felt like, man, that was good, but it would have been even better with more, then try more next time. But we'll just put a little bit of fermented ramps on this sandwich. All right, so we've got our 3 sandwiches ready to go. We're going to go bring them over to the stove. All right, so here we are at the stove. I've had this pan on for quite a while. I mean, I love cast iron because you can just put it on the stove and just leave it on forever. But I've had this pan on for a little while. It's on medium-low. And another reason I like putting the butter on the pan is because you can test and see the heat. And that is just exactly what the butter should do when you put it on the pan. A little bit of sizzle, but it shouldn't be going nuts. There shouldn't be any blackening happening. And then you can just put your sandwich on there, and you can just kind of scoop it around a little. Add a little more butter for the next sandwich. I mean, there cannot be too much butter on a grilled cheese sandwich. It's amazing. So, yeah, and then our final grilled cheese, and plop it on there. And then the key here is to just leave it alone. Just walk away. It's very difficult, but you're gonna have to try. Just let it be. Take about 4 to 5 minutes per side. So the only kind of difficult part about the buttering not on the sandwich is when you go to flip it. It's not really difficult. Just hold the sandwich for a second, add some butter, set the sandwich down. And if you see, that looks really, really great. You can see the cheese is starting to melt. Put that one down. Put that one up. Got a little extra dark, but that's all right.
That's all right.
Set that down. Oh, those are starting to look really, really good. I can't wait to try it. And then I actually have on the stove in the back here, I have some creamy tomato soup. In the front here, I have some au jus, just to pair with the sandwiches. I'm really excited to try that out and see how that tastes as well.